To read from the House Republican Conference Vice Chair, Georgia Republican, Congressman Doug Collins. Does that jibe with what you're hearing, Congressman, that the opening gambit would be a 15% corporate rate, likely in the 20s after that, but a start with 15?
Well, hey, Neil, I think we're hearing a lot of different things right now, but the president's always talked about 15. I think 20 is also a number that we're hearing a lot of as well. As you go back trying to put this coalition together, I think the biggest thing in the emphasis was really something you talked about a few minutes ago. At 15, 20%, we have got to get our country back growing again. After the last 8 years of a president who did not understand the economy to a president now who has said that this is the economy that we've got to have and that growth has to be a part of this with our tax reform package. I'm supporting the president. I want to see this happen because growth is what we've got to see right now.
Yeah, I can't imagine the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal would come out the gate with something less than he wanted, knowing that it would be negotiated upwards anyway. But we'll see. Is it your understanding as well that the states that have very high taxes, they're in danger of seeing people writing off those taxes, those state and local taxes on their federal forms, but their numbers are few, that is, in terms of representation in Congress, that there are more guys like you who would be perfectly fine with doing so, ending or removing that deduction?
Well, I think it's something we've got to look at. It would affect more than just those states as well. Georgia would be a state that would impact some, but also we've got to understand, and you and I have talked about this before, we just can't go into this and not remember that there is a debt and a deficit issue. We cannot go into it and say simply we're just going to do this and not worry about the impacts. What we've got to look at, though, is when we started taking things off the table, when you started looking at the BAT tax, the border adjustability, right, when you started moving these things around and taking those off the table, then pay-fors, you had to start looking other places. So I think this is a reality of life. This is something we're going to be negotiating with. We have a short time frame window. I think what you're going to see is going to be pretty close to our beginning negotiating points to get this thing through, because at the end of the day, we have got to get to this place where this is the top priority for our coalition. It's for top priority for Republicans. We don't have to convince conservative voters that tax reform needs to happen. We've just got to go out and show it. And I think the failures so far of health care, the struggles that they're continuing to have, I think we're got to reinforce to the American people that it's about them and not about politics and fighting up here.
Well, you might have a tougher time winning over your colleagues, right, sir? By that I mean more moderate members who say you can't just offer any tax cut. It can't be just big for the sake of big. You got to pay for it. It's got to be revenue neutral. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, let's go back. I think when you do, I think there does need to be some revenue. We've got to look at the revenue neutral perspective on this, but also we have always seen, and we go back to Kennedy, to Reagan, we go back to any time you have dealt with tax reform, it causes growth. It causes growth in the economy. It causes growth in our national wealth. It causes growth in our income to the tax burden. What we've got to understand, though, is by spreading that out, we give people who get up every morning, who want to keep their jobs, to grow in their jobs, to have their standard of living raised, to have their wages raised, because their business and our economy and our commerce is working. What I'm frustrated about is when we talk about these other states and their high tax rate and being able to write them off on their federal tax case. Why wouldn't we just go to those states and say, look, what you're doing is not working. You're taxing your people to death. You're worried about a deduction. Why don't you go back and relook at how you actually do your own economies? Those are the kind of things that conservatives would look at, and that's sort of an argument back. Is it going to be tough? Sure, it's going to be tough. But they did not send us up here to find an easy button. They find us up here to find tax relief and help for the people that need it most.
But it sounds like you're saying, sir, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that you're more open to that than you would be to tamper with the mortgage deduction or the charity deduction, any of that.
It's something, yes, that we definitely got to look at, because when you start looking at major pay-fors, some things have already been moved off the table. We've got to look at that. So it's a real issue, and we're going to have to adjust to that. And I think at the end of the day, though, it goes back to who we're doing this for, and it's for the American people and our economy. That's why I'm so frustrated with what we came through with health care, and I'm still seeing that frustration now. But we've got to put a combined front, and the House will, and I pray the Senate does as well.
Do you think the president, whatever your views on what he thinks about the NFL and players who sit out the national anthem or don't come on the field with the national anthem, that he created a distraction at a time when people should be focused on this tax cut, or guys like you are focused on this tax cut, and that he hurt that?
Well, I think there's a lot of things, and I think the president did, and he said what a lot of people felt. I respect him just as I respect the individuals who want to protest. But as someone who served in Iraq, who's somebody who's also still in the military, this is an issue that I would wish the football players who want to take part in their communities find another way to do it. Go out and work in their communities, help their communities. Many of them already do, and I'm very proud of the work that the NFL does. But this has become a national distraction over our national pride and our flag and those that have served. The example of NFL players such as Pat Tillman, who went and died for his country. You see Villanueva, who actually stood there yesterday, sang the national anthem, had 3 tours in Afghanistan. For those of us who serve, this is something that we need to move past getting the healing in our country out. We have worked a lot on this in our criminal justice reform. There's a lot of ways to work on this. But I just think right now, this is for the NFL, play football. If you want to know how it's played, for those of us from the SEC, just watch the SEC. We'll continue to play down there as we go. But I think this is, for us, play football, put a product on the field, and then also work in your right to protest however you want. That's because many of us serve in our military so that you can have that right. But go out and play football. Go
Are you less inclined to watch a professional football game because of this?
No, I mean, there's a lot of things in life that try to distract you, and the foolishness has been going on for a long time. I think there's very real needs that we need to address, but I'm going to continue to watch. And, I got a Falcons team that's playing pretty good right now.
Yeah, you do. All right, Congressman, thank you very, very much. Very good seeing you, sir.